Well, hello, my BC youngins. This is our first video type thing for the new school year. Remember, this whole first part, probably this first 2 months, we're just going to be reviewing everything you learned last year. So this very first lesson is about just limits in general. All right, limits in general. So do you remember the different ways to evaluate a limit? What's the first thing you do? Hopefully you're thinking substitution. You just try to substitute. Remember, a limit as x approaches c of f of x equals some answer L. All right, so the first thing you do is you always try to plug this c number into the function, see if you get an answer. Remember, if you get an answer, that's it. Boom, you're done. Number two, if it blows up, remember, it blows up, right? Remember talking about that last year. If it blows up in your face, that can be a multiple reasons, okay? But usually it's because you got zero in the denominator. So what do you do when you have situations like that? You have to do some type of algebra, right? So you'll need to either factor and cancel, or you'll need to do multiply by the conjugate, or might need to do, I don't know, common denominator to simplify a complex fraction. Kind of depends on the situation. All right? And if that's not an option, the third thing you can do is you can do L'Hopital's rule. I know we love L'Hopital's rule. Do we remember L'Hopital's rule? Okay. L'Hopital's rule is if you have a rational function, if you're trying to do the limit of a function divided by another function, all right, and you're trying to do this, and you either get 0 over 0 or you get infinity over infinity. So when you plug that number into the top and the bottom, you either get 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity. Then you're allowed to use L'Hopital's rule. Now, if you remember what L'Hopital's rule is, that's where you do the derivative of the top divided by the derivative of the bottom. Remember, it's not the hody-high stuff. It's just doing the derivative of the top divided by the derivative of the bottom. And then you take the limit of that new expression. And you can just keep doing that. As long as you get 0 over 0 or infinity, you can keep doing L'Hopital's rule over and over and over again until you actually get an answer. So eventually it's going to lead you to an answer. Okay, so hopefully you remember L'Hopital's rule. If none of those algebraic things help you, then you can always think about it graphically. What does that picture look like? What does that function look like? Can you think of the value of the limit graphically if you start thinking about what the graph of the function looks like? All right, so I've given you lots of practice things. There's a joke handout that gives you a little joke in the end, you know, where you do a little puzzle. There's a card game I've given you to do to review. You can always remember you've got last year's work to do. Okay, you can go over any of last year's review, especially the stuff I gave you at the end of the year, the limit review before the AP exam that we took last year. That's a good thing to go back to. Hopefully you still got all that. And then another assignment that I'm giving you to do is a circuit. Now, if you don't know what a circuit is, you start with the top problem in the upper left-hand box, the top side on the left-hand side, in box 1. You work that problem, and whatever answer you get, then you got to go to one of the other boxes on the page to find that answer, and that becomes problem number 2. And then you work that problem, and then you find its answer and go look on the sheet somewhere for the answer to that problem, and that'll lead you to problem number 3. And eventually it leads you back to problem number 1 that you started with. So that's called a circuit. So I've given you one of those. Most students love those. So that'll probably be out of all the assignments. That might be your favorite one, unless you really like the card activity that I've made in the PowerPoint. So you've got plenty of things to do. You've got 4 things you can review on and your stuff from last year. So I've given you plenty of stuff. So nothing new. You're just reviewing. Lucky you. All right. Everybody else is getting new stuff. So go do some work on those things I've given you, and can't wait to see you in our Zoom.